Translations. When a figure can be a shape, a person, an animal, a flower. It is when it slides, moves over, shifts, or glides. What that means is the figure stays the same shape. It is not enlarged, it is not shrunk. It has the same orientation, which means the top is still at the top, the bottom is still at the bottom. And each point moves the same distance in the same direction. Now there's two pieces of vocabulary you need to know. The first one is the pre-image. When they say pre-image, they're talking about the original figure, where it originally was placed. When we're dealing with shapes, we're going to be naming points at the corners. When you name the points of the pre-image, it's things like A, B, C, D, E, and so on. However many corners you need. Now, once you've done the translation and you've moved it, it is now called the image. This is the new piece, the image. This is the new figure after all points have moved. But when you name the points, they now have this little sign right up here. And the way you say that is prime. A prime, B prime, C prime, and so on. So let's just say I had this lovely triangle, A, B, C. So I'm going to copy and paste this lovely triangle, and I'm going to change its color just so we can see where exactly it's going. So if I have this lovely triangle, and it is originally in the same exact spot as its original triangle, if I were to translate this, that means I'm moving it right or left, up or down. So I'm not rotating it, I'm not making it larger, I'm just moving it over. Now, once it's moved over, I now need to change these points to be A prime, B prime, and C prime. Those prime notations tell you what's happened. It's gone from triangle ABC to triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Now let's just say that I moved it one more time. So if I took this triangle A prime, B prime, C prime and moved it again, maybe I moved it over and down a little bit. Since I've already done one prime, this is going to be double prime. A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. But again, what that's telling you is the direction that it is moving. It went from the ABC to the A prime, B prime, C prime to the A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. So it helps you figure out the order in which they've moved. So be very careful when you are looking at your shapes to know which one was first, which one was second, and which one was third. So find your original image. That's the pre-image. It's just A, B, and C, and so on. Now, when you write a rule, because we are going to be doing things in a coordinate plane, if I were to name a point, it'd be X comma Y. Now, if I want to describe a movement in which they've moved either left or right, I use this notation. X comma Y, and this kind of like moves to, so this is your translate sign. It translates to X plus H comma Y plus K. The H is your horizontal shift, so this is going to be your left or right. And the K is your vertical shift, so this is going to be the up or down movement. So let's just say that a figure moves right 3 and down 2. So the rule would be X comma Y becomes X, and since we've moved right 3, that's going in the positive direction, so X plus 3. So X plus 3 is telling me move right 3, comma, since Y is going to move down, that's the negative direction, Y minus 2. So this down 2 means Y minus 2. So if I gave you a coordinate, you could apply that. So for instance, let's just say I gave you the coordinate 1 comma 5. That would become 1 plus 3, which is 4, comma 5 minus 2, which is 3. So the point 1 comma 5, if I moved it right 3 and down 2, would land on the point 4 comma 3. So if I asked you to move a figure left 10 and up 11, moving it left 10 means I'm moving in the negative direction on the x-axis. So I'm going to go x minus 10. And up 11 means I'm moving in the positive direction, so it'd be y plus 11. So again, if I asked you, okay, if I took that original point 1 comma 5 and applied this rule, if I were to move it left 10, it would end up at 1 minus 10, which is negative 9. And up 11, 5 plus 11 is 16. So it would end up at negative 9 comma 16. So now let's apply a rule to a figure, and let's apply it to this triangle ABC. So our rule is going to be x plus 3, which means right 3, because plus means positive direction, comma, y minus 1. So that means we're going to go down 1. So I'm going to start by putting my pencil on coordinate A. And I'm going to move based on my directions. So from point A, I'm going to move right 3, so 1, 2, 3, and down 1, down 1. This is now A prime. So remember that we have to put the prime notation because that is saying that is where it moved to. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the next coordinate. So if I move right 3, so 1, 2, 3, and down 1, this is now B prime. And with my very last corner, my C, I'm going to move right 3, 1, 2, 3, and down 1. And here is C prime. So now, if I connect my points to recreate my triangle, I have now moved my triangle, right 3, and down 1. Okay, let's try another one. We have triangle ABC, and my directions are going to be moving x plus y into x plus 2, that means right 2, comma y minus 1. So let's start with point A. I'm going to move right 2, 1, 2, and down 1, down 1. So here is A prime. So with B prime, again, I'm going to move right 2, 1, 2, and down 1, comma 1, and there is B prime. And lastly, C, 1, 2, 1, and here is C prime, and here's where my new triangle moved. Yes, your shapes can overlap themselves. That is absolutely fine. Okay, so that is triangle ABC moved right 2 and down 1 based on its directions. Now, that is one way to write directions. Another way to write it is called a vector notation, in which you're going to write it as component form. So when we write it in vector notation, this is our little vector symbol right here, V with a little, looks like one side of an arrow over it. And it has all the same information, except we're going to write it as h comma k. So you don't need your x comma y becomes x plus h comma x y plus k. You just write it with the little pointy brackets and h comma k. Again, h is still the horizontal shift and v is the vertical shift. So if I were to ask you to take a shape and move it along the vector negative 3 comma 2, what that means is you're going to go left 3 and up 2. This is exactly the same as if it was said x minus 3 comma y plus 2. It's just a shorter way of writing it. Now sometimes the vector can also be expressed as an arrow drawn in on the picture. So the figure moves in the direction and the distance of the arrow, so of the vector itself. So let's just say this was our picture here. This is my triangle A, B, and C, and I have this lovely pink vector here. So let's figure out what exactly this vector is telling us to do. So this vector is telling us to move 2 right and down 3. And the reason I know that is because I'm going to start at the point and I'm going to go in the direction and end at the arrow. So if I wanted to go from the start of the vertex to the end, that's the same as going right 2, down 3. So I'm going to do the same direction with all of my points. So for point A, I'm going to go right 2 and down 3. 1, 2, 3. And here is A prime. I'm going to erase this just because it's about to get in my way. Then I'm going to do the same thing with C. So I'm going to go right 2, down 3. 1, 2, 3. and here is C prime, and I'm going to do the exact same thing with point B, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And here is B prime. So my triangle has moved to here. But here's one other really cool thing. If I were to take my triangle, or sorry, my vertex, and I were to, I'm trying not to grab the coordinates, if I were to have my vertex start at C, the vertex ends at C prime. If I were to move it that it starts at A, it ends at A prime. And if I were to start it at B, it ends at B prime. Your vector is the exact distance between a point and its new location. So if I were to tell you, for instance, that this vector was 5 centimeters long, then you know the distance from C to C prime is 5 centimeters, from A to A prime is 5 centimeters, and from B to B prime is also 5 centimeters. So this vector can be moved around and is actually giving you the end point. It's almost like it's pointing to where the new point ends up. So it is something that actually can be moved around.